Doug Fuller's family has been farming in northern Polk County for generations.
Now I get to call all the shots.
He's already nervous about the cash crop he's about to start planting. Soybeans are the target of China's retaliatory tariff, 10% on certain imports from the United States, in response to President Trump's 10% blanket tariff on Chinese goods. Fuller is fearful it spells bad news for the 2025 harvest.
You know, they aren't good for the other countries, they aren't good for me, and who could blame them putting reciprocal tariffs on us? You know, it's just a match, you know, and nobody's going to win.
China is one of the largest overseas markets for American soybeans. According to the USDA, the United States exported nearly $13 billion in soybeans to China last year alone. Fuller has already faced 2 years of bean prices dropping and says it looks as if the trend may continue.
Last year we took a step back, and now we're taking another step back. So I'm, you know, many of us we'll get through it, and it's going to be tough on others.
America's heartland is bleeding. In Iowa, the backbone of our food supply, the family farmer is collapsing under the weight of broken promises and brutal trade wars. Once proud and self-sufficient, many of these farmers are now staring down bankruptcy, not because of poor harvest or laziness, but because of political gamble that turned their livelihoods into collateral damage.
Good morning. Got a little farming news for y'all. You may or may not know China is the United States' biggest customer for our soybean crop. We need trade deals with them pretty bad because they buy the biggest majority of our soybeans. Argentina and Brazil, down in South America, they're our biggest competitor in soybeans and corn. Sometimes they'll raise 2 or 3 crops of corn. They always raise a big soybean crop. But Argentina is a huge competitor for the United States. Well, this week, Argentina lifted a tax, a commodities export tax. I don't know the exact name of what it was. They lifted a tax on exporting commodities, grain, stuff like that. Well, in 2 days' time, China made a really good business deal. They bought 84 million bushels of soybeans from Argentina. That's 30 cargo ships worth in 2 days' time. Good business move by China. Don't blame them at all there. Well, in the meantime, Argentina stopped that, put tax back on because they hit their quota. Well, last night there was some kind of meeting. I don't know what all went down, but I know the biggest part of it that went down. The Argentina economy is pretty horrible. The peso is way below the dollar right now. They done a deal with the United States for some kind of line swap, pretty much a loan. The United States is about to send $20 billion to Argentina. Argentina is going to send $20 billion worth of their peso, which is not worth the same amount as our dollar is. So we're getting kind of the raw end of the deal on that one. And another thing about Argentina, they're not the best in the business about paying their bills back. They're kind of like your sister's boyfriend that don't got no job and don't really like to pay for nothing and rides off of everybody else. That's kind of the way Argentina is. We just sent them $20 billion. All the while, they're sending tax-free China 84 million bushels of soybeans. That don't make much sense. That's kind of like wiping before you poop. Why would you help out your biggest competition and hurt yourself with your biggest customer? I don't understand the deal. I don't know what's going on. I ain't trying to make this political. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you voted for Trump, if you didn't vote for Trump, even if you did, there comes a time you need to start holding people accountable. I don't understand what's going on, but they need to get their head out of their rear end and start helping out the United States and their farming economy before they go to helping South America and other farming economies. I don't know. That don't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, that's just, it bees like that sometimes. You'll have that on them big jobs, but that's the big news. China ain't bought a single bushel from the United States this year. They just bought 84 million bushels from Argentina in 2 days. And the United States thought it was a good idea to go ahead and loan Argentina $20 billion just so their economy can do a little bit better. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong by being a little upset or pissed off, but I hope y'all have a great day. If you don't mind, hit that old like and follow and all that good jazz over there. Y'all get after it, baby.
What are all those starving soybean farmers in the Midwest going to do with the 55 billion pounds of soybeans that China's not buying this year? I know Iowa is going to go nuts for making their own soy milk, and I know that Arkansas is going to go nuts for tofu. I'm sure they're going to love their own homemade miso in Indiana, and I know those North Dakotans are going to love soy yogurt. In Missouri, they can send their kids to school with some whole roasted soybeans for snack and then make their own veggie burgers for lunch and dinner. I have never met a person in the Midwest or the South that doesn't love a good veggie burger. Have you? And no more Baskin Robbins on a hot summer day in Wisconsin. You won't need your healthy cows because you can make your very own soy ice cream. And it doesn't stop there. Are you going to be cold this winter and you can't afford your heating bill, but you have a ton of extra soybeans, literally? Well, just simply learn how to make your own spray foam insulation with soybeans. Maybe they can make their own biodiesel too. That doesn't sound complicated at all. See, you don't need to blame others. You can just pull yourself up by your own soybeans. Or you could have voted for Kamala, but I guess she had a funny laugh, right?
Well, the Democrats were right again, and it turns out the farmers of Iowa are completely shit out of luck, specifically because they voted for Trump, okay? Because his policies have double fucked them, okay? Starting with USAID. Now, you might say, why would USAID be connected to the farmers of Iowa? Well, turns out the USAID was one of their most reliable customers. We were spending up to $2 billion every year buying soybeans from them and then shipping them overseas to feed poor, starving children. Until our Christian president got in office and he said, what?
Over the next couple of weeks, millions of acres of soybeans will be harvested from fields just like this one in Iowa. But now one of the biggest buyers of those soybeans won't be purchasing from America.
This weather, this dry pattern that we have, there'll be a lot of soybeans coming out here in the next week.
Across Iowa, the combines are moving in full force, and so far, farmers like what they see. But this year, farmers are facing a bigger challenge, one that's far beyond the fields. The Trump administration's tariffs led China to halt purchases of U.S. soybeans, instead buying them from Argentina and Brazil.
That really hurts our prices, and they're our number one customer in buying our soybeans, so that's kind of the big damper right now.
Tom says federal crop payments can only do so much, and that farmers depend on market access to thrive.
As a farmer, we want to just be able to sell our product, in an open market and be able to do it freely and not have to, get the subsidies or whatever and stuff. I don't think there's a farmer out there that wants any of the subsidy money.
Despite the uncertainty, harvest remains a time to celebrate the year's work.
This is our favorite time of year. We're able to see our hard work come in and, pay down the bills, pay down the loans anyway, and start dreaming of next year already.
Farmers say they'll keep working the fields, but the impact of China's decision looms large over Iowa's soybean market.
I'm making this video from Iowa. We own a soybean farm here, and we are really struggling right now. The entire soybean industry is collapsing thanks to these tariffs and the fact that China has completely cut off all contracts with the United States. They are importing all of their soybeans from Brazil. Thanks to these trade wars, soybean prices have dropped so much that it's pushing all of us farmers into the red in an already difficult year. We're part of the Soybean Farmers Association, and we sent a letter to the president this month urging him to stop this trade war so that the entire industry doesn't go under. On top of that, the tariffs have made all of our farm equipment skyrocket in price. We can barely afford anything right now. Of course, as a farmer, I voted red just like all the other soybean farmers, and now the people we elected are ruining our entire business, our entire way of life, our entire industry. The same thing happened in 2019 when he had the trade war with China. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense that we voted for him again, but we just can't help it. Anyway, any help that we could get urging him to end this trade war would be much appreciated.
So they went, like we said from last night, from $12 billion to zero, right? Now they're having to pay a bunch of, basically an extra tax on top of that with the tariffs. See, they're starting to suffer financially under Trump. They're suffering big time. And on top of that, they thought that, well, we don't care about the mass deportations because the unemployment for black people, this is what they thought. Black people unemployment is so high because they only live in a bubble what they listen to, like Fox News or places like that, right? They don't actually get in real facts and understand that as black people, we are doing good. We are lawyers. We are doctors. We're engineers. We're entrepreneurs. We're athletes. We're musicians. We're podcasters. We're all kind of things in society, right? Law enforcement. We do all kind of things. We're not sitting around just hoping that they hire us for some low income job. I was talking to brothers and sisters today that all of them, a lot of them college educated, professional jobs. Just talking to them, black people, right here. You know what I'm saying? We done our time with that long time ago. Y'all got that label for free. Them days are done. If we gonna work like that, we gonna do it for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We work on our own farm like that, but working for y'all? No. So they got rid of the illegal immigrants working on it.
This is my 39th crop. I started in 1986, the year I graduated high school. I could plant an acre of beans in 1986 for 30 bucks. It irritates me that you don't have the guts to acknowledge that the people do not pay the tariffs. I don't care if it's John Deere, Case, Caterpillar, all that stuff is outsourced overseas. And the guy that pays it is the guy that purchased it. I can buy a bearing for a combine and it's made in Taiwan or who knows where. Parts have over doubled in the last year, if you can get them. The dealer at Marshall has a backlog for almost 4 months because they can't get parts because of Trump's stupid tariffs. I think agriculture has taken a heck of a hit on a lot of misinformation, and he is not helping the farmer. I mean, we farm about 3,500 acres. We are going to be so far in the red. When are you going to stand up for us instead of kissing his ass for these trade deals? And the tariffs. More so the tariffs than the trade.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September is upon us. Harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs, and we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers, and they're critical.
Yeah, so if we look at, and we're going to divide, so I'll stay with grain and oilseeds because that's what I do day to day, but I just have to say one thing about livestock. For livestock folks, we're in good world for them right now. So I'd love to be able to have as good a world that they're having in GNO, but we just don't. And so there's just so many things, and it's really a supply story this year. When you think about across the globe, we haven't had a year where every country's almost on all 8 cylinders where we're getting full production. And that's where we are right now. It's also too a bit of a dichotomy in the US is that we're building corn stocks, but the world is not. Or it's just the opposite in soybeans where the world's building soy stocks and we're not. And so it's a very weird world, but the fact is we just have so much supply in the world that's just going to keep prices, really on the defensive.
So with all this winning and FAFOing going on, apparently Iowa was feeling left out and felt the need to enter the fray and throw their hat in the ring. Iowa, the state of Iowa, is currently leading the nation in farm bankruptcies in 2025. Evidently, Iowa farmers did not learn their lesson from the first Trump administration and are getting another dose of reality. I guess once bit, twice shy, right? But, I mean, I'm not sure what can be said at this point. Like, you know, this constantly feeling the need to bend over and say, please, sir, I'd like some more. I mean, you guys are beyond help. And despite all this, and despite the fact that the state GDP has shrunk by 6%, Governor Kim Reynolds has come out and said, Iowa farmers stand by Donald Trump despite the tariffs. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, if you're going to go down with the ship, go down hard, right? But of course, you know that they're going to be asking for handouts and expecting subsidies, right? Socialist.
Trump's illegal tariffs have single-handedly destroyed the U.S. soybean market. As of yesterday, the price of soybeans is about $9.34 here in Iowa. The cost of production is anywhere from $11 to $11.50. So per bushel of soybeans, it's about a $2 loss. And when you add the fact that it's about 50 bushels in an acre of soybeans here, you can do the math to see how bad things are. Historically, 60% of Iowa soybeans have gone to China. With Trump's trade wars from his first administration, the U.S. has become an unreliable supplier. So instead of these soybeans going to China, it's soybeans from South America, like places like Brazil and Argentina. That leads to more grains going to be left in the bin, which means to oversupply, which means to lower prices. So here's what we need to do. We need to demand trade, not aid. Farmers don't want a bailout, they want markets. The second thing we need to do is push for competition, both on the market side and especially on the input side with seed and fertilizer costs.
My message is, as I see it from my state of Iowa, it's beginning to look like the 1980s agriculture depression all over. Congress was too slow to respond in the 1980s. Thousands of farmers went out of business in the 1980s, and that should concern all of us, because with only 2% of the people producing all the food for the 98%, we can't let the destruction of the family farmer happen in 2025 like it did in the 1980s.
When President Trump launched his tariff war against China, he promised American farmers that, the short-term pain would lead to a long-term gain. But here in Iowa, that promise has become a nightmare. China, once the biggest buyer of U.S. soybean and corn, retaliated with tariffs of its own. That shattered Iowa farmers from one of their largest export markets almost overnight. Mountains of soybeans sat unsold in silos, prices even plummeted, and bills kept piling up. Now, at the same time, tariffs raised the cost of machineries, steel, and fertilizers for farmers, already operating on razor-thin margins. This wasn't just the pressure, it was a death sentence for their business. And now, the results are plain to see. Bankruptcies are climbing. Families are losing farms that have been in their hands for generations. And rural communities across Iowa are hollowing out. Even more tragic, many of these farmers voted for Trump, believing he would stand up for rural America. Instead, they feel abandoned, sacrificed in a trade war that never delivered the promised victory. Bailouts have been offered, yes, but they are a band-aid on gaping wound. No subsidy can replace the lost markets, the generational land slipping away, or even the pride of knowing your work fits the world. This isn't just about Iowa. This is about what happens when political gamemanship collide with real lives. When leaders gamble with global trade, ordinary Americans pay the price. Now, so here's the big question, okay? Was this trade war worth the devastation it brought to American farmers? Can Iowa and the family farm itself survive policies that puts politics above people? And most importantly, guys, what happens to America if its farmers disappear? Tell me what you think about this on the comment section. Do well to like the video, and thank you guys, for supporting my channel. I hope you keep supporting, watching the videos, liking the videos, share, or drop your thoughts. Tell me how to improve on the comment section. I do appreciate that. I see a lot of people commenting on certain places we need to improve on. So I thank you for that. Like, share, and subscribe if you've not. Do well to subscribe. Thank you guys.